Once there was a wise man. Before he died, he summoned his sons and his family and told them that they must water the trees. He said, "You may also earn a living in other ways, but you must also be careful to water the trees." And with that, the wise man died, leaving behind sons. He had one son who could not walk. He could stand, but he could not walk. His brothers supported him, giving him enough to live on and to have something left over. Little by little, the crippled son saved up some of the leftover money until he had a considerable sum. He thought it over. Why should I have my brothers supply my needs? It's better that I start some kind of business of my own. And although he could not walk, he had a plan. He would hire a wagon, a secretary, and a driver. He would travel with them to Leipzig. And then, even though he could not walk, he would be able to do some kind of business over there. When his family heard his plan, they were very pleased. They said, "Why should we continue to support him? It's better that he earn his own living." They therefore lent him even more money so he could have enough to run his own business. This crippled boy hired a wagon, a secretary, and a driver, and he set out. They came to an inn, to a hotel, and his secretary suggested that they spend the night there, but he didn't want to. They implored him, but he was stubborn and continued on his way. Soon, they were lost in a forest, and they were attacked by robbers. The band of robbers originated during a time of famine. A man had come to the city and announced that whoever wanted food should come to him, and thus he attracted a number of men. He worked with cunning, and he dismissed the men he could not use. To one he said, "You could be a craftsman," while to another he said, "You can work in the mill." He thus chose only intelligent youths, bringing them all into the woods. Then he told them that they should become thieves. From here, people travel to Leipzig, Breslov, and other places. Merchants go by. We're going to rob them and amass much money. It was these robbers who attacked this crippled boy and his men. The driver and the secretary were able to run away and to flee, but the crippled boy, seeing as he couldn't walk, he remained in the wagon. When the robbers came to take the money chest, they said to him, "Why are you sitting here?" And the cripple, he replied that he could not walk. The robbers took the chest and horses, leaving the crippled boy on the wagon. The secretary and the driver fled to a town. They decided that since they had taken out loans from the wealthy landowners, it would be foolish for them to return home. Since they could be put in chains, it would be better to remain in the town to which they had fled. Here they would be able to work as a secretary and a driver. This crippled son had provisions he had brought from home, and as long as he had some dry bread in his wagon, he ate it. Then this was used up, and he didn't have anything now to eat. He thought it over. He threw himself down from the wagon, where he would be able to eat grass. He spent the night alone in the field, and he was very scared. He lost all his strength until he couldn't even stand anymore. He could only crawl, pushing himself along. He ate the grass around him. As long as he could reach out and eat more grass, he would remain in one place. But when that grass was gone in his near proximity, and he couldn't reach anymore, he would push himself further and eat there. And he continued eating grass for some time like this. Then one day, he came across a certain type of grass that he had never seen before, and he had never eaten before. The grass looked very appealing. He had eaten grass for so long now that he was familiar with the various species, but he had never seen any grass like this. He made up his mind that he would pluck it out, root and all. Under the root there was a diamond. The diamond was square, and each side had a different power. On one side it was written that whoever grasped that side, it would be foolish for them to return home, since they could be put together again, and they could be healed. And that is where the sun and the moon meet. When the cripple uprooted the grass concealing the diamond, it turned out that he was grasping that side of the stone. It lifted him up and transported him to the place where day and night meet. He looked around and saw that this was the place where the sun and the moon come together. He heard the sun and the moon speaking. The sun was complaining to the moon. He was kvetching, must have been Jewish. He said, "There's a tree that has many branches, each with its own fruit and leaves. Every single branch, fruit, and leaf has its own special power. One has the power to grant children to the childless, while another one has a special power to grant parnasa, livelihood. One has the power to heal one's sickness, and the others have the power to heal different sicknesses. Each one thus has its own different power. The tree must be watered," the sun said. If it were watered, it would have all these great powers. But not only do I not water it, but when I shine on it, I'm drying it up." The moon replied, "You're worried about the concerns of others. Let me tell you my problem. I have 1,000 mountains, and around these 1,000 mountains there are another 1,000 mountains. This is the place of the Shadim, of the demons. These Shadim have feet like chickens, and they therefore do not have any strength in their feet. They pull nourishment from my feet, and because of this I don't have any strength in my own feet. I have a powder which is a remedy for my feet, but a wind comes and blows it away." "Is that your worry?" answered the sun. "I'll tell you a cure. There is a highway with many roads branching off from it. One is the path of the righteous, of the tzaddikim. When a person is a tzaddik, some dust from this path is sprinkled under every step he takes. Every time he takes a step, he walks on that powder. Then there's the path of the atheist. If a person is an atheist, some powder from this path is scattered under every step he takes. There's also the path of the insane. If a person is insane, dust from this path is sprinkled under him. There are also many other paths. There's also a path for the tzaddikim who accept suffering upon themselves. The wealthy landowners lead them in chains, and they don't have any strength in their feet. Some powder from this path is scattered under their feet, and this gives them their strength. The sun says, "You must therefore go there. There's plenty of powder, and it will be a remedy for your feet," he said to the moon. And the cripple heard all of this. He then looked at the other side of the diamond, and he saw written there that if one grasps that side, one will be transported to the highway from which the many paths emanate. He grasped that side, and it immediately transported him there. He placed his feet on the path containing the powder that was a remedy for the feet, and he was immediately healed. He then took powder from all the paths, tying them into bundles. He made one bundle of powder from the path of the tzaddikim by itself. He did the same with the powders from the other paths, and he took them all. He then decided to go back to the forest where he had been robbed. When he came there, he chose a tall tree near the path along which the robbers came out to plunder. He took some powder of the tzaddikim and some powder of the insane. He mixed them together, and he scattered it on the path. He then climbed the tree and sat there, waiting to see what would happen. A group of robbers who had been sent out by the leader to plunder set out. They came to that path, and as soon as they stepped on the powder, they became tzaddikim. But they began to cry out for their neshamot, for their souls, since they had previously robbed and killed so many people. However, because this powder was mixed with the powder of the insane, they became insane tzaddikim. They began to fight with one another. One said, "It was because of you that we stole," and the other said, "You caused us to steal." They went on until they all killed each other. So this is the point that we ended. And now we're going to discuss the end here. Just to recap, the last explanation that we have given is based on the sun and the moon and them meeting. What was it that allowed this boy who wasn't able to walk and now is not even able to stand to be able to find his healing? So we said that through Mesirat Nefesh, through self-sacrifice for the sake of Kiddush Hashem, Rabbi Nachman explains that a Jew merits to peace, to shalom. Rabbi Nachman explains that every single Jewish man, every single Jewish woman has a nekudat tzaddik inside of them. A spark of the tzaddik if they're a man, a spark of the tzaddikah if they're a woman. And the way that that spark, that deepest essence of their soul comes out is when their life is being threatened. The Baal Tanya speaks about this as well. And he explains that a person has many different thoughts and many different emotions, many different challenges in their life. But they're all sort of experienced on the most external level of their mind, of their heart. But that's their normative experience of life. However, when a person's life is threatened, then automatically, so to speak, a part of them dies. The part of them that's the outside. That's called bitul, self-nullification. And when that happens, the innermost point of them, which is the point of the tzaddik within them. Like the pasuk says that the Jewish people are kulam tzaddikim, they're all tzaddikim. That part is what's brought to the forefront, meaning their spark of Judaism. And this is why the Baal Tanya says, and this is why Rabbi Nachman explains as well in the Likutei Moharan, that over the course of history, you have had secular Jews who have converted to other religions, Jews who, let's say, they weren't as strong in their Judaism, and all of a sudden their life is threatened, and they would rather die to be a Jew. They would rather die not to give up the Brit Milah. They would rather die not to give up Shabbos. Or they start keeping it because of these things. And this is not even a distant memory for us. You know, after October 7th happened, how many stories did we hear of religious Jews feeling more connected to their Judaism and deciding to do more for the Jewish people, more to elevate themselves spiritually? You know, whether that's saying Tehillim more, whether that's saying Tikkun Chatzot, whether that's investing more time in prayer and Ibodedut for them, whether it's getting together with other Jewish people and learning for Jews who are captured right now in Gaza, or whether that's praying for the soldiers who are fighting for us, for the reserves. And then you have, let's say, in the Dati Lumi community, you have people who are raising money for Jewish people in the army, raising money for food for them. They feel a deeper connection to being Jewish, a deeper pride for being Jewish. And then you have secular Jews, who literally, there are some secular Jews from America who decided that after this thing happened, that they want to do something drastic with their life. They want to have a Brit Milah. Maybe they didn't even have a Brit Milah before, at least not halachically. Maybe they were only Jewish from their mother's side, and then they never took it and said, like, I'm a Jew and I'm going to go all the way with it. You know, even someone like my mom, that she buys a Magen David, a Jewish star, and she puts Jewish stars on her nails, right? Or even, let's say, I have my wife's family member that he hasn't kept Shabbat, I think, since he got divorced, which was probably about, 15, 20 years ago. And he grew up religious. He's Yemenite. He believes in God. And after October 7th happened, he kept Shabbat for the first time in a very long time. And not only that, he promised his daughters that he was going to keep Shabbat from now on. And he's been doing it since. And he's by himself. He's 60 years old. He lives in this small little house in a Yemenite village. And he sets up his table and he puts his tablecloth over, and he has the seudas by himself. And but what caused all of that? So the answer is Mesirat Nefesh. Now, Mesirat Nefesh can either be, I just actively take on myself to exert effort for the sake of the Jewish people, and as a result of that, those external layers of me are shed over time, which is what Rabbi Nachman is advocating for us for, which is what the Baal Shem Tov is trying to teach us the greatness of Mesirat Nefesh for Klal Yisrael. And in doing so, you're able to find this deepest point of being a Jew inside of you, and it comes out. Or, unfortunately, and Bezrat Hashem, we shouldn't hear any more stories like this, when we actually have physical threats to our life, physical threats to our Judaism, being Jewish, keeping Torah, learning it, doing the mitzvot, being proud of being Jews, and all of a sudden that is being threatened, and you see it come out. Now, what we're learning in this story is that that's what actually heals a person. Because what makes a person sick, Rabbi Nachman says, is a lack of peace, a lack of shalom, a lack of peace within their soul, a lack of peace within their different elements of their body, right? What is it that brings a person to a state of health? When everything is working harmoniously, when everything is working together, when everything is working biyachad. And then there's peace. Now, Rabbi Nachman's chiddush, his novelty is that the way that you achieve this peace is actually through self-sacrifice. Through Mesirat Nefesh, you bring together all the different parts of yourself that would never normally be able to come together. So just as a way to see it so it doesn't sound so abstract, think about the Jewish people right now. How many Jews were fighting with each other? How much hatred there was before October 7th? How much bitterness there was in Israel between different Jews and political parties, between different Jews who had different religious orientations. So much resentfulness, so much angst. And literally there was like one side of the world are the religious Jews, are the left-wing Jews, and then on the other side, right-wing Jews, and then on the other side you have these secular Jews, left-wing, right? And literally it feels like there's a whole world between them, even though they're your next-door neighbor. What stopped and changed all of that? When there was peace. Where was the peace? When the Jewish soul was threatened. And all of a sudden, all of these things that we feel are so important, that they're so chashuv, that are really the Yetzer Hara, doing everything that they can to take away harmony and unity between Jews. It just fades away. It goes away, and that deepest point of being a Jew comes out. And then you get to recognize that deepest point in your brother and sister. And this continues. And now you see that there's like a higher level of harmony and unity between Jewish people across the world than there has been for I don't even know how long. Definitely for as long as I started doing tshuva, definitely for as long as I've been in Eretz Yisrael. And now you see Jews of all paths working together, supporting each other, being proud of being Jewish. And all of that was through Mesirat Nefesh. And in that sense, there was a very deep soul healing that was taking place. And that was, one of the silver linings of what's taken place. And Bezrat Hashem, b'zchut this class and b'zchut all the teachings that we do, b'zchut all the learning that you're doing and all of the advice of the Rebbe that you're putting into your life and all the Mesirat Nefesh that you're showing, that we should bring back all of the souls of all of the Jews who are still trapped in Gaza. They should be able to come home, husbands, wives, children, grandparents, and healthy and happy, and to be able to spend Purim with their families and with joy. And that the Jewish people have another modern miracle to be able to celebrate. And Bezrat Hashem, not that there should be another tsar after that, but that the coming of Mashiach should come in consonance with that as well. So that's what we left with. And then the Son, in this case, which is the Torah, comes and tells you a cure. That there's a path of the tzaddik, and every step that he takes, there's dust that comes underneath it. And then there's the path of the atheist. It says every step that he takes, the dust goes with him as well, and the insane as well. So one important piece of advice that we're learning from here that begins to heal this boy is to understand how much people impact you, how much people's ruach, their energy, impacts you, how much their personal belief set impacts you. That it's not just that when you hang out with certain people or you're in certain places, they have their own thing, but that whatever their own thing is, it's creating, so to speak, a dust, and that dust leaves a trail wherever they go, and you are absorbing that dust, and that dust is becoming a part of you. And this is one of the reasons why it says that when a Talmid Chacham is living in a certain Jewish city and he leaves that city, the Shekhinah leaves that city with him. And like Rabbi Nachman said, when he used to go to different cities, that he was performing tikkunim, he was doing rectifications, soul rectifications in all these different cities. It's a very big mystery how exactly he was doing that, but we know that he was doing that. And in fact, as he was going through one city, he said, if people knew what I was doing in this city, they would kiss my feet with every step that I took. So again, like a lot of Rabbi Nachman's teachings and a lot of Rabbi Nachman's statements, they sound at first glance to be very grandiose. However, if we understand from this story what is the depths of this, that literally because he's such a great tzaddik who has accepted suffering upon himself for the Jewish people, that with every step that he takes, he is leaving that dust in that place, that dust which heals, that dust which brings Jews together, that dust which mitigates judgments. And therefore Rabbi Nachman said that if people knew how great it was that I was walking through their town, they would kiss my feet with every step that I took. Because be'emet, that's what he brought himself to such a place that his feet carried that type of dust. But we all carry a certain type of dust wherever we go. And in the secular world, they say like, this is your energy and you attract other energy like this. But that's a real thing. That's a real thing. And so I remember even for myself, when I was very, very, very sick, and again, this was maybe in the path of the insane tzaddikim, that as I was trying to start to do tshuva, I got both the dust, hopefully of the tzaddik, and hopefully, and not hopefully, but probably also the dust of the insane. And so I was having these conflicting forces within me, and in fact, this is a great war that takes place. One of the things that I realized that for me to truly get better, and for me to take responsibility for my life and for my thoughts and for my emotions, and to stop blaming everybody else for my own suffering, I was going to have to limit the amount of voices and the amount of exposure that I had to certain individuals, to certain teachers, to certain classes, to certain groups of people. Because ultimately, for me to truly get healthy and get better, I'm going to have to surround myself with dust which is truly healthy from everybody. And in this case, for me, at that point in my life, it meant only to listen to classes that were based on Breslov Hasidus. Because at that point in my life, I was so broken, and I was so scared, and I was so afraid, and I had so much shame, and I was so sad, that literally even just like basic Torah classes from very well-meaning, intentioned Torah teachers, it mamish brought me down very, very much and made me feel hopeless. That I'm very far from these things and I'm never going to be able to get there. Or they didn't normalize my mental health struggles and made it feel like it's another source of shame I should have. And I realized in doing Hipodadut for the first time in that psych ward for an hour that what is it that brings me hope? And what is it that makes me feel like I'm going to get out of this place? What is it that makes me feel like there's a possibility that I can live a better life, that I could be a better husband and a better father, that I can be more stable at work and find a good job, that I could turn my life around? And I realized that everything that I was listening to, whether it was Rav Arush, or Rav Brody, or at that time Rav Moshe, I'm trying to think about how to say his name, Dror Kasuto, or whether it was Rav Chaim Kramer's Perush in the Likutei Moharan, or whether it was Rav Meir Alkabetz, whatever it was. But I realized that it was only those teachers who were teaching Breslov Hasidus that were making me feel like this part of my life, this very deep struggle, this very big chesron, lacking, is not happenstance, it's not by chance, it's not a blip on the screen, it's not something that I need to hide, it's not something that I need to pretend doesn't exist. It's something that there's hope for. It's something that's on purpose. It's a yerida for the sake of aliyah. It's a very, very, very deep descent, but that's going to have a corresponding ascent. And not only am I going to be able to ultimately be helped through this and to get through this period and to be stronger than I ever was and to be wiser than I was and to be more humble than I was, but to be able to help everybody along the way. And this was so, so important for me. So one point that we're coming out with is just like Noach had to go on the Teva for a period of time. So too, the beginning of a person's journey to spiritual health, to spiritual life, he needs to surround himself with the dust of those people that he wants to be drawing in, because everybody has a dust. It doesn't mean that you should stop hanging out with your parents. It doesn't mean you should stop talking to your friends. But it just means that you have to take responsibility, tremendous responsibility, for what are the voices that you're letting inside. Or even just more, a more practical example, even news that you're letting in, You have to ask yourself, when I listen to news, how much of this news is making me feel hopeful? How much of this news is making me feel like things can get better? How much of this news is making me feel like the world is not coming to an end? Okay? I once, I saw someone recently that a Chabadnik said, if the Jews would stop watching the news, now we could actually bring Mashiach. And I think even though he was joking, there was a real nakuda of truth in there, because ultimately, it's not the watching of the news that helps us through what's going on in the world, because the news doesn't create reality, as I heard someone say recently. It's just reporting on it. And ultimately, our job as Jews, Rabbi Nachman says, is to look for what's missing in the world and to fill it through tefillah. So if in a day I'm spending 3 hours just causing myself to go into yeyush, to despair, to anger, to frustration, to fears, and I'm not praying during that time, there's an alternative to that. That I could pray to Hashem, please help me to hear exactly what I need to hear from whoever I need to hear it from. To know truly what are the lackings that are in the world without going into a state of despair by hearing it from some slanted view or from someone who specifically has a position and therefore wants to embellish, or he's trying to make money because the more hits he gets on YouTube or on Spotify or whatever, all of these things. I could just hear it instead from my spouse. Somehow my spouse just tells me, hey, honey, did you hear what happened today? Or I get to hear from a friend. And then I take that with me into the field, and I take that with me into my Borodut, I take that with me into my Tilim, and I start to really daven for those people. And not from a place of despair, not from a place of this is never going to get better. But gosh, Hashem, we need help. I read a story recently of the Baal Shem Tov. I tell my kids Baal Shem Tov stories before they go to sleep every night. I have found an amazing set of five books. If you guys want, I could send you the link after. It's called Stories of the Baal Shem Tov. It's a little pricey, but there's nothing more valuable than your children's education, and specifically their education in Amunah, and their education in Amunah in Hashem, and Amunah in the Torah, Amunah in true tzaddikim like the Baal Shem Tov, like Rabbi Nachman, like the Arizal, like the Rashbi, like Moshe Rabbeinu, and belief in themselves, to have Amunah in themselves. And so every single night I spend a certain amount of time telling them these stories. And a few nights ago I was reading a story that the Baal Shem Tov visited a certain town, and these people were very unlearned in this town, but they all had tremendous emunah and yirat shamayim. And so when there was some type of heavenly decree on this place, and there was a threat of the whole town being wiped out, the Baal Shem Tov encouraged everyone to come to the Beit Knesset there and to all daven together. And all the men are on one side and the women are on the other side, and they're all davening to Hashem, crying to Hashem, and the men are in a minyan and they're praying together, and the women are on their side doing their thing, and it looks like nothing's getting better, and it looks like this is going to end very, very bad. And all of a sudden, Baal Shem Tov says, the decree has been wiped out. The decree's gone. It's over. We don't have to be worried about our lives anymore. This whole thing is over. So his students asked him, well, what took place in the Beit Knesset? What happened at that moment that everything changed? So the Baal Shem Tov said that there was a Jewish woman in the Ezrat Nashim section, in the women's section. And she simply said to Hashem, not in her machzor, not in her siddur, not even in her Sefer of Tilim. She just said to Hashem, mamish, crying, Hashem, I have 5 kids. And when my 5 kids need me and they're in trouble, I'll do anything for them. I would do anything for them. To help them, to save them. Said, you have so many more kids than that, Hashem. All of us. So many more than 5. And we're crying to you, saying we need help, that we need to be saved. How could you not listen to us? if I could do this for my 5 kids, you can do this for your kids. So what does that sound like? Very intense little Hibodedut session, no? So the Baal Shem Tov said in schut of the simplicity and the genuinity, the humility, the realness of her prayer, because of this, the decree was sweetened and nullified. And it's very interesting, and my wife was making challah recently for Shabbat, and my son was home because he wasn't feeling well. So I went with my son in the kitchen, and I was watching my wife make the challah. And my son was like intrigued, why is Abba standing here watching as Ima's making the challah and making the bracha, and saying that this is for the soldiers, and this is for the Jews in captivity, and this is for Shlema, for my son, Shiloh Chai. Because usually Abba's learning, or Abba's teaching, or Abba's doing Hibodedut, or Abba's saying Tehillim. And I told Shiloh that Rabbi Nachman says, where can a person find real emunah? Right? His Talmidim said to him, we understand from you that the most important thing in the world is emunah. It's the foundation of the entire Torah. It's the foundation of joy. It's the foundation of humility. It's the foundation of peace. Right? Emunah is mamish kol. It's mamish everything. So his Hasidim asked him, where can we see real emunah? Because ultimately, yes, we can take your advice and we can work on it every day, and we can learn Torah, and we can do all these different things that you tell us to do. But it would really help us if we saw a model, something to look at and say, this is the type of emunah we're shooting for. This is what real emunah looks like. And Rabbi Nachman said, if you want to see real emunah, go look at Jewish women. And you'll see real emunah. And so in this case as well, this story, this is real emunah. This is the point. The point is not something artificial. It's not superficial. Hashem is not a tyrant waiting over for us until we have the right kavanot, as we say shachrit or mincha or arvit, or waiting till we say, a certain amount of Tehillim, and once we hit 40, we'll have Yeshua. There's nothing to do with any of that. Hashem is emet. And Rabbi Nachman says that your soul is emet. And it's that piece of emet, that piece of truth inside of you, that Hashem is waiting to hear from, waiting for you to connect to, waiting for you to reveal. Because Rabbi Nachman says that faith is dependent on truth. Truth doesn't just mean that we're learning the Torah, which is true, or we're saying tefillas from our Siddur, which are true. It's all true. But what's the truth within that truth? Where's your truth in that truth? How truthful are those words that you're saying? How truthful is your conception of the Torah that you're learning, right? It needs to be true for you. It's that truth that Hashem is looking for, that Hashem is waiting for. And real faith comes from that place. It's poured out of that place. And every single part of us is mamish trying to hold us back from speaking out our truth because we're scared. What is that going to mean for me? And what is that going to mean with my relationship with Hashem? And is this right or is this not right? Rabbi Nachman says that I don't know why Jewish people allow Hashem to make decrees on them. Fight. Right? I think part of the reason why we our nature is to, want to go online and spread awareness to the non-Jewish world, or to, go on rallies, or, watch news for hours, is really because we feel helpless, right? We feel helpless. And so as a result of that, we need to find a way that we can feel like I'm being helpful, like I'm being useful, because obviously everyone right now is in pain. And everyone right now wants to be able to help their brothers and sisters, and it's the most beautiful thing. How do I do that? And I think, be'emet, that because I'm not able to allow myself to say my absolute truth when I talk to Hashem, I feel helpless. I feel like it's not doing anything. I feel like I'm not saying anything. And that there's an element of truth to that. Because you're not really saying what you feel. You're not really saying your truth, either because you think that it's not proper, or it's not right, or Hashem doesn't want you to, or who am I to say these things? Just preface with all of that. This is what I do. I say, Hashem, I don't know anything. I'm mamish. I came from a putrid drop, I came from the ground, and I'm going to the ground, and you made me, and I'm flesh and bones, and mamish, I don't know anything. With that being said, your Torah says you're not allowed to judge a person who's in pain. It's a sore. And I know from Chazal that you keep your Torah. So I'm in pain right now. Please don't judge me. But I have to say the truth to you. We need help, and we can't take it anymore, and you need to help us. Because I have 4 kids, bli ayin hara. And mamish, I can't even see them get a scratch, and it doesn't hurt me. I'm quick to run to get them a Band-Aid, and to wash their elbow, and to help take the dirt out. And then when they're crying, to sit with them and console them until they get better and they feel better and they're happy and they want to go play again and they're not scared to play. And who made me like that, Hashem? You made me like that. And how much more compassionate you're supposed to be than that. And yes, Rabbi Nachman says everything that you do is compassionate. But Rabbi Nachman also says that you should give us compassion that we can understand. So please, Hashem, give us compassion that we can understand. And don't have to have us resort to, all of these other middling, ineffective, secondary means of getting help. You're the one who's going to help us. You say it in Tehillim. We're supposed to say this every day. From where's my help going to come? It's going to help. It's going to come from Ayin. It's going to come from where? It's going to come from Hashem, the one who created heaven and earth. It's like, we got to get it into our skulls. Ultimately, yes, we could do anything. But things don't end unless Hashem wants them to. And everything is temporary otherwise. Okay, so we vote in this mayor who's not anti-Semitic. Okay, great. And he makes some type of policy that stops the permeating of anti-Semitic ideas and anti-Semitic policy, right? Okay, great. But is that going to stop Arabs from surrounding Eretz Yisrael wanting to kill us? No. Is that going to stop anti-Semitism? No. Anti-Semitism is not natural. Think about it. Anybody who has a brain in their head understands it doesn't make any sense. The degree to which that there's hatred for one group of people, this specific group of people, with how much that we have contributed to society, to medicine, to art, to cinema, to social work, to the helping fields, to psychology, to therapy, to psychiatry, how much we've empowered and advocated for widows and orphans and social welfare. And the list goes on and on and on. It doesn't make any sense how much hatred there is to us. So we should take that and understand there's a reason it doesn't make any sense, because it's supernatural. It's not natural. And if you look at all the times in Jewish history, how did we get out of them? Purim's coming up, right? The first threatened Holocaust, the first threatened annihilation of the Jewish people. This man, Haman, who starts this entire thing saying the Jews are the cause of all the problems. And again, everyone, in a way that's totally not understandable, says, yes, you're right. And he's making a decree that in a few days, all the Jews are going to be wiped out. What did we do? What did we do? We all got together and we mamish cried to Hashem for 3 days until Hashem flipped everything. Flipped everything. When the Jewish people were fighting against Amalek, who Haman comes from, says, yes, they were fighting this nation. But when were they winning? When they were looking up to Moshe. Why? Because Rashi says that if they were looking up to Moshe, it means that they were looking up to Shemayim. Meaning they understood that their success was not coming from anything down here. It's coming from up. It's coming from their hikashri to the tzaddik. It's coming from their emunah. It's coming from their faith. And this is the same thing for us. We need to take responsibility for what is the dust that we're allowing ourselves to connect to, because ultimately that's what infuses our actions, right? If I am learning throughout the day about Emunah and Hibodedut and Tefillah and the stories of tzaddikim, of the Baal Shem Tov and Rabbi Nachman, of the Baal Tanya and the Maggid Mezrich and the Noam Elimelech and Rav Zusha, and I'm seeing the same theme over and over again. The power of a simple Jew's prayer, the power of a Jewish woman's prayer, the power of a simple man's prayer who doesn't know Torah that well, and how much he himself can literally stop an entire decree against the Jewish people through truthful, honest prayer from the bottom of their heart. If you keep getting that from all sides, guess what you're going to feel? A tremendous yearning to pray, a tremendous yearning to say the truth, a tremendous yearning to never give up. But guess what happens when that's only a part of your life? And the majority of your life is hearing bad news and hearing hopelessness and hearing despair and hearing natural means for my solutions. Then guess what? You're going to lose all of your steam. You're going to lose all your motivation. You're going to lose all of your fuel to feel like I can literally get my help from Hashem only. And this is the main gift of the Torah. This is the main gift of Emunah. This is the main gift that our ancestors and the tzaddikim have passed down to us. We need nothing else besides Hashem. Hashem is the answer. He's the cause. He's the cause of all causes. He's the sibat sibot. He's the ilat ilot. But what happens? We get nervous. We get scared. We become paralyzed by fear. But where is that coming from? It's coming from the dust of those around us. And so we're learning that for this boy to heal, for him to be able to find his own refuah and to be able to help people to find theirs, he needed to choose the dust of the path that he walks on. And it was from there that I was really able to make tremendous progress in a quick amount of time, getting out of that psych ward and really building up my emunah and really building up my strength. And then, once I became very, very strong in it, I was able to take in more influences. I was able to get off Noach's ark and that safe haven. And I was able to hear other things. And it didn't throw me for a tizzy. It didn't throw me for a loop. It didn't weaken my faith. It didn't weaken my yearning to want to help Jewish people, right? But there has to be a time that you get into the teva and you allow yourself to stay in the ark of Noach, of the tzaddik, and let him feed you and let him take care of you and let him water you, and to be receiving your advice and your wisdom from this highest, holiest, most faithful and most faith cultivating place. So that's one thing. Another thing is that I noticed something that Rabbi Nachman says in Likutei Moharan twice. We brought it up in the past, but it's very important to remember this. Why do I have these difficulties personally? One person, he struggles with parnasa. Another person, he struggles with health. Another person, he struggles with issues with their mom or their dad. Another person has challenges with their kids. Another person has challenges where they live. Another person can't get married. Another person can't stay married, right? Everyone has difficulties and challenges, a host of these, a network of these, one of these, whatever. Everyone's struggling with something, right? So what is one of the secret reasons? What is one of the deeper reasons why Hashem does this? So listen to what Rabbi Nachman says in the Likutei Moharan. These are 2 Torahs in a row, 2 lessons in a row. And the impetus for this was Rabbi Nachman was asked to explain something in the Torah. And he wasn't able to, and he forgot what the explanation was, even though he knew it. And he started to feel very bad about himself, that all these people were waiting for him to explain something that he really knows the answer to, and he doesn't know how to explain it. And he's wondering to himself, How could it be that he's so low now when he was so high before? How can it be that he forgot everything that he thought that he knew? How can it be that at this moment that he was, asked to come and speak, he doesn't remember the things that he's going to say? And then he said these Torahs that came from that place. There's a pasuk in Tehillim, in the 8th parak of Tehillim. King David is speaking about the greatness of Hashem's creation. And then he says, Vatchasrehu me'at me'elokim, v'chavod v'hada tachrehu. What does it mean? But you made him slightly wanting from Elokim. With kavod, with honor, with hadar, with majesty, you crowned him. So what is he speaking about? He's speaking about man. King David is looking at all of creation. He's looking at the animal kingdom and vegetative life. He's looking at the inanimate life. And he's saying that really, Hashem made me, David, humanity, higher than all of these things. And so to speak, serving this epicenter of creation called man. And this great kindness that Hashem did by making me that focus, that center of reality. Just as a funny side note, someone once came to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He was a secular Jew, but he knew that the Lubavitcher Rebbe went to, very high level graduate schooling and undergraduate schooling in I think it was France. He was brilliant in, mathematics and chemistry and science and things of this nature. And so he thought this would be an interesting case study to go to an Orthodox Hasidic Rebbe and ask him about going to the moon. It was at a time that we had not been to the moon yet. So he came, he had a meeting with the Rebbe, and he asked the Lubavitcher Rebbe, is it possible, according to the Torah, for us to take a flight to the moon? And the Lubavitcher Rebbe said, it's absolutely possible. Without question, we could fly to the moon and back. There's no contradiction with that in the Torah. And the man said, really? We can go to the moon? And he said, absolutely. But don't be disappointed with what you find there. And the man didn't know exactly what he meant. But one of the main reasons why we want to go to the moon is because we wanted to see if there was humanity on a different planet. Could we find life on a different planet at that level? And Lubavitcher Rebbe was hinting to him, you're not going to find human life anywhere beside on earth. So don't be disappointed with what you find there. I mean, you could go anywhere, but you're not going to find the answers to your problems over there. The answers to the problems are here, even though we're all trying to look for somewhere else to find it. So King David himself is saying, wow, this is amazing, Man, you made us as the epicenter of creation. So now listen to what Rabbi Nachman says. Hinei yedua, behold it's known. Ki kol ma shechaser la'adam, hein, beruchani, hein begashmi. Behold it's known. Everything that a person lacks, whether it's spiritual or whether it's physical. Hachisaron hu b'shechina. That lacking is in the Shekhinah. It's in the imminent presence of God in this world. The divine presence of God. The feminine revelation of Hashem in this world. Shehu bechinat Elokim, that this is the concept of the name Elokim. And this is what the pasuk means when King David says that you made me vatchasrehu, a little less or a little lacking from that of Elokim. Meaning what? Bavadai me'at me'elokim. Meaning, chisaron, this lacking bavadai is from Elokim himself. Meaning the Shekhinah. Ach, however, it's known that this chisaron, he's above and below. This lacking is above and below, meaning it's below with me. I'm the one who struggles with this lacking, and it's above in the Shekhinah, meaning Hashem kivechol, so to speak, at this level of himself, the level in which he wants to interact with us and reveal himself to us. The Shekhinah is also lacking. Bavada yelo tsar gadol va'atzvut. And when a person realizes that this tsar is not just within him. So let's say, for instance, again, we're saying a person has health issues. A person has no tranquility of mind. A person has low self-confidence and low self-esteem. Rabbi Nachman saying you should know that this is in the Shekhinah itself. And that's the reason why a Jew is feeling it. That's why they're experiencing it. Hashem is allowing them, as we are His people, we are His friends, so to speak, to allow us into the pain that He's feeling. That the tsar of the Jewish people is really the tsar of Hashem. And therefore, if there are Jews in captivity, it's because the Shekhinah is in captivity. And if there are Jews that are in exile in Chutz La'aretz, it's because the Shekhinah is in Chutz La'aretz, in exile. And the list goes on and on and on. And when a person sees and feels how deep a person's lackings are, that these lackings are even above, just like they are below, Rabbi Nachman says for sure he's going to feel tremendous pain and sadness. He's not going to be able to serve Hashem with happiness and joy. Therefore, he needs to answer to himself. Ma'ani, what am I? And what is my life? That the king himself, Hashem himself, is letting me into the lacking that he has. What greater honor is there than this? That God himself, this infinite reality in which is impossible to apprehend and understand, that no thought can grasp, this reality, this entity, is literally letting me into his deepest pain. This is the 89th Torah of the first section of Likutei Moharan. Pei Tet. Again, you can look it up after. Mitoch kach, and within this, that you start to realize how small I am, and yet how Hashem himself thinks so much of me, that he wants me to know the pain that he's in, that we could share this pain with him, and that we could commiserate over it together, that we can look for a solution together, that we can advocate for help together. But just the fact that Hashem himself is letting me in on what pain the Shekhinah has itself, what greater honor is there than this? That he's letting me, so to speak, into his lackings. Mitoch kach ba l'simcha. And within this, if you really let this sink in, you're going to come to simcha gedola. You're going to come to great joy. And it's going to renew your mind. It's going to uplift your state of being. And it's going to bring you to tremendous joy. And then with honor and with splendor, Hashem crowns you. Meaning this honor and this splendor that there is to him, that he knows that the king himself is letting him know his own chisaron, his own lacking. And that's what it means, crowned, meaning with mochin chadashim, with new mochin, with new consciousness, with new understanding, with new ability to connect and to relate to the reality on a deeper basis. And why did Rabbi Nachman say this? Because this is the process that happened to him. He was asked to be able to reconcile this difficulty in Torah. He felt like he had the answer, and at the moment that he was going to explain it, he lost it. And he felt this embarrassment and this busha in front of everybody as they're all waiting for him, that he himself is claiming he has answers to these things, and now they're asking for it, and he doesn't have the answer to these things. And he's in the public. It's very embarrassing. And Rabbi Nachman is very honest about all of his experiences, which is one of the most beautiful parts about him, and the part that we need to connect to realize that we're not supposed to be perfect. And even the greatest tzaddikim, they suffered and they struggled. And it doesn't take away from their righteousness. It doesn't take away from their goodness. It just is, we're human. We're human. And in this case, that Rabbi Nachman said, what was the process that he went through? That he starts thinking to himself about how this lacking that's within him must be above. That Hashem shares his lackings with us. And therefore, if he's forgetting what the answer is to this problem, if he is struggling to understand how to resolve this difficulty, so then, so to speak, the Shekhinah is having trouble resolving a difficulty. And he's letting Rabbi Nachman experience it because Rabbi Nachman is the tzaddik. And the Shekhinah never leaves the tzaddik. It's his wife, so to speak. And so she's letting him know how she feels. She's feeling forgetful. She's feeling lost. She's feeling confused. She's feeling embarrassed. And now he feels that too. And he starts to go into even deeper sadness, thinking about how much pain the Shekhinah is in, while he's in this pain as well. But then he remembers how chashuv it is, how precious it is, that Hashem that this point of existence, which created all of reality, something from absolutely nothing, all of history from the beginning to the end, all of humanity, all the different elements of life, all the trillions of different species of creation, and that's just in this physical world. And then you have infinite numbers of spiritual worlds. And then you have 99% of the world, which is not Jewish. And you have 1%, less than 1%, which is. And then within that less than 1%, you have 20% that keeps the mitzvot and Torah. And within that 20%, you have an even smaller percentage of people who are truly every day trying to draw closer to Hashem. And this is the focus of their life. And now Rabbi Nachman's understanding and feeling, wow, Hashem is letting little old me, little Nachman, little Fed, little Jason, little Rebecca, little Bracha, little Chaya, little David. This one point, this very, very small point in existence, who's just flesh and bones, who himself is struggling or she is struggling so much, to let them know that he's also struggling. And he's letting us know. And what a great honor that is. What a great privilege that is. That Hashem feels comfortable enough with me. That he believes in me enough. That he feels security with me enough. That he can literally let me in on his pain. The honor that comes from that. And then through that, you're lifted back up to joy like he was. And then he remembered the answer. Because ultimately, all forgetfulness comes from mochin the katner. It comes from this contracted mindset, which comes from fear, which comes from sadness. But through his being able to connect to this deeper truth, he was able to be brought up to joy. And with joy, Rabbi Nachman teaches that one comes to mochin the gadlut, comes to a higher consciousness. And with that, he's able to perceive Hashem and himself and the Jewish people on a much deeper level. And just one more very short Torah on this. This is the next Torah in the Quran. It's based on the pasuk from Tehillim Kuf Daled. The pasuk says, "Anochi asmach b'Hashem." I am happy with Hashem. I rejoice in God. Yitamu chataim min haaretz. That all averot, all transgressions of the Torah ceases from the world. Okay? Rabbi Nachman says again, Hinei yadua, behold it's known. Ki kol hachesronot shebaim la'adam. All the lackings that come to a person. Hein ba'in mechamat ashvira. They are all coming because of the shattering of the vessels that happened in the beginning of creation. Shenaflu nitzotzot. That fell these sparks of godliness. Nichsaru me Shechina. Now they're lacking, so to speak, from the Shechina, like is known. V'atikun. And what's the rectification of those sparks? How do we heal? How do we fix and elevate those sparks? And to fill that lacking. Hu ayedei shemsamech et atzmo belokav. It's through him being happy and rejoicing in his God, in her God. Azai nishlemu kol chesunot min shavira. And it's through this then that is perfected and is made whole all of these lackings from this original breaking, or from this present breaking. And all of these sparks then are elevated. And this is what the pasuk means. Anochi esmach b'Hashem. I am happy with my God, meaning I'm happy with the fact that I understand that Hashem is giving me the ability to lift up his sparks, to fill his lackings, to make him a partner in creation with him. And the more lackings that I have and the more difficulties and challenges that I have, the more that Hashem considers to me to be a loyal best friend and someone who's capable of filling those lackings. And how do we do it? By being happy with God, by being happy with my lot, by being happy with his mitzvot, by being happy with the fact that Hashem considers me such a dear friend. Yitamu, and this concept of yitamu, which means that something ceases, things only cease when they're filled. So this concept of yitamu, meaning it ceases, it means it's filled. What's being filled? Kol chatayim. All of these, what appears to be on the simple language, to be transgressions. All of these averot, all of these mistakes. But really the word chet does not mean avera. It doesn't mean a sin. A chet literally means something which is lacking. And as a result of that, we translate it as a transgression, or something which goes against the dictates of the Torah. Why? Because this is a source of lacking. But the word chet literally means to be lacking. So in this case, when it says that all chatayim are filled, it means all lackings are filled. Like it says, my son Shlomo and I will be deemed chatayim, which King David means lacking. From the earth, mina aretz, meaning the Eretz Elyona, that in Kabbalah and Chassidut it's explained that when the Torah speaks about the land of Israel, or the land in the beginning of creation, it's speaking about the upper land, which is really a code word for the Shekhinah. This is the deeper secret of why Rabbi Nachman says that any Jew who wants to be a real Jew, any Jew who wants to ascend from level to level to level, he needs to yearn to ascend to the land of Israel. So what's the deeper reason? Because the land of Israel is actually the Shekhinah, right? And the physical land is a physical reflection of that. But the spiritual root of the land of Israel is the Shekhinah itself. And therefore, obviously, to be able to connect to Hashem on deeper and deeper levels, I need to be connected to the Shekhinah. But in this case, we're learning that the Shekhinah has many lackings. And again, we see with this boy who's crippled, who is not able to walk, that the whole reason he's not able to walk and the reason why he is not able to stand is because the depths to which Hashem loves him, the depths to which that Hashem feels that he can trust him, the depths to which that he feels that this boy can fill in that lacking. And he can fill in that lacking through joy. He could fill in that lacking through his own personal healing that comes from spiritual healing. And as a result of that, not only does he feel the lacking within himself, but he feels the lacking within the Jewish people. He feels the lacking within the moon, which is the lacking of faith, right? But Badavka specifically, that we get chizik from knowing that the degree to which, and this boy as well, that the whole reason he's crippled is because he's Hashem's best friend. And it's because the Shekhinah is crippled. Because all the time the Shadim, the Sitra Akra, the force of negativity in the world are siphoning off the light of godliness. They are taking away the Jewish people's emunah. And that's the moon not being able to stand, not being able to walk, not being able to move. And that pain that they feel from that. And we, as the Jewish people, or in this case, this boy, he is being let into that experience of that deep pain that Shekhinah is going through. And ultimately, it's because the Shekhinah sees, Hashem sees, how much this person has invested their life in wanting to be close to them. And Hashem is showing them, is allowing them in. And that place, from that place you can really pray. From that place you can really learn. From that place you can really feel connected to Hashem. Right? And in this case, he was able to heal even through this and to help everybody else as a result. One more point that I want to say over here, and then I'm going to maybe finish next time with a story. There's a real risk when a person does tshuva to become an insane tzaddik. You know, in the Baal Tshuva world, they call it flipping out. When a person realizes that Hashem exists and that there's a possibility to have a healthy, happy relationship with Hashem, and that they could really make this the foundation of their life, or they connect to Rabbi Nachman's teachings, or they connect to the Baal Shem Tov's teachings, whatever, they connect to whatever they connect to, and they all of a sudden they get inspired and they want to get really, 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 really close to Hashem, and they want to help everyone else do the same. So, but there's a big Yetzer Hara, and we're not aware of it. Rabbi Nachman speaks about this in the first lesson of the Likutei Moharan, that the Yetzer Hara encloses itself in mitzvahs. So that means to say that your greatest enemy is the thing that you feel is the right thing to do, is the good thing to do, is the beneficial thing to do. And it's actually causing you damage. And it's actually causing other people damage. So for this, it's very, very important, like Rabbi Nachman says, that you are connected to a true chacham, that you're connected to a wise man. Because in this way, you're able to know what is a healthy path for me. What is a healthy path for my family? Because if you try and do everything on your own, you don't actually know, what is my gedarim, what are my boundaries, what are my natural limitations that I need to be aware of and keen to, Because like, for instance, if you read Rabbi Nachman's Torahs and lessons in the beginning, it sounds like he's telling you, do everything that you can, whenever you can, and push yourself to the absolute limit and the brink. And there's an element of it that he is encouraging you to definitely make the most of your potential. But he says later on that a person also needs to know their limitations. They need to know where are they holding, and not to do what's called shvirat hakelim, that you break your own vessels that you currently have. Which means simply, your vessels are your emunah, they're your faith. You need to do avodah, you need to do your service commensurate to the level of faith that you have, right? So that means, like, for instance, if a person, let's say, I get so excited about Rabbi Nachman's teachings, all I need is emunah, all I need is that. So I learned this teaching that if I have enough emunah, I don't even need to leave my house to make parnasa for my family. So that's true. Rabbi Nachman says that. And if he says it, it means it's a reality. But it's also implicit in that if I'm not holding at that level of emunah, then I need to go work. It's a mitzvah gedolah for me to go work. I must. It would be an error for me not to. Right? Like Rab Natan's student came to Rab Natan after Rabbi Nachman passed away and asked him, I'm thinking about doing a kollel and learning full time and having others support me. Do you think I can do it? Do you think I should do it? Rav Natan said it all depends. If you're able to learn Torah in a way that a person is mining treasure, and literally he knows that every single coin that he picks up is the most precious thing in the world. There's nothing more precious than it. And he's so infatuated with the process. He so believes in the importance of what he's doing. And he's literally enraptured by it, that he doesn't even pay attention to mundane needs. And he only, when he does decide to engage in them, he does it in a way that's as quick as possible, in a way which is as, that I'm not making it koveya. So like the example he was giving is like I'm taking a snack and I'm chewing it as I continue to mine the gold, right? That's it. So he says that if your learning of Torah is like that worker, that you really understand, and it's the realest thing in the world to you, that there's nothing more precious than this, and that this is the foundation of the world, and the world stands on this, and that literally you're sustaining the whole world through your Torah learning, and that you have nothing else that you have to rely on beside Hashem, and you believe that, then yes, go learn in Kollel, and you'll be matzliach, and you'll be able to support your family in this way. But Rav Natan said, if you're not holding at that level, which is totally fine, you cannot go do that. You have to go to work. Okay? Now, how did this person get to know that? Because really what happened was, originally he was so inspired by Rabbi Nachman's teachings, he wanted to drop everything and just go learn. But when he came to Rav Natan, who was Rabbi Nachman's main Talmud, he came to a Chacham. Rav Natan was able to tell him, yes, it's true what Rabbi Nachman said, but you need to understand what Rabbi Nachman said deeper, so that you can see where you fit in that, right? And then you need to bring it back to Ibodadut, and you need to ask yourself and be honest with yourself, where am I holding? Where am I in all this? And this is like this with everything. So Rabbi Nachman says in Sichot Iran that all forms of extremeness, whether it's in your Judaism, whether it's at work, whether it's in your relationships, whether it's with yourself, whether it's with your parnasa, whether it's with your health, whether it's with your eating style, whether it's with your exercise, or whether it's with your hobbies. Rabbi Nachman says there is no need ever to be extreme. Ever. And it's funny because when people think of Breslovers, they think of people who are very extreme. Now, it's fair to say, or I should say, that Rabbi Nachman does believe that there are things which people think are normal and which are balanced and basic, which Rabbi Nachman finds to be extreme. So, for instance, a secular lifestyle, right? So we might take from this, so maybe I should just go halfway with my Judaism and kind of live in all of the worlds and be secular and be modern, but also have my faith and do all. Maybe that's what he means. So Rabbi Nachman doesn't mean that. You have to understand what it means to be normal and what it means not to be extreme. So for Rabbi Nachman, he said that for a person to believe that nothing comes from God is extremely extreme. For a person to believe that everything comes only from his own efforts is unbelievably extreme. For a person to always be thinking about what's his next meal and only to be thinking about food and drinks and sex is very extreme, right? So in this case, Rabbi Nachman doesn't just mean extreme in the way that we think about it, or normal in the way that we think about it. Again, we have to figure out what he means by extreme. But ultimately, Rabbi Nachman says this, and this is codified in Halakha, the Rambam brings it down in the Mishnah Torah. The Torah is the middle path. It's a path of harmony. It's a path of peace. All of her pathways lead to peace. So if you find that anything that you're doing is making you feel disoriented, if anything that you're doing is making you feel burdened or overwhelmed or worse than you did beforehand, don't do that, right? Like if you're learning and you're finding that your learning is making you stressed out because you don't have any yishuv da'at while you're doing it, because you're thinking about the work that you have to do. So first do the work that you have to do, and then go learn. Because ultimately, 10 minutes of learning with yishuv da'at is much more valuable and much more chashuv than a half an hour of learning without it. Or for instance, when it comes to tefillah, it comes to hibodedut, right? We go through different phases in hibodedut. And a lot of times when we start our journey in Breslov Chassidus, we do it on our own. And we don't know exactly, what's healthy, what's not. So again, if you're going into hibodedut, and now obviously if this happens sometimes, it's okay. But in general, if you're coming out of hibodedut, and every time you feel worse, or you feel more scared, or you feel more afraid, or you feel more lacking, so then that's not what hibodedut is. That's not what it's going for. You're supposed to be coming out of hibodedut feeling happier, more weight off your shoulders, less pressure on yourself, a decrease heightened of your external senses. You're supposed to be filled with life force and joy. And obviously it takes progress and it takes work and it takes practice. But if you're every single day doing hibodedut and you're coming out feeling worse, then you need to ask yourself, am I being an insane tzaddik right now? Is there something I can do in this space that's not as extreme or gives me the capacity to be happier? Like for instance, if I know that dancing makes me happy, if I know that clapping makes me happy, if I know that singing makes me happy, and I know that when I speak about my difficulties and my challenges without first being happy, then it brings me down even further. So don't speak about your lackings yet. And even if it takes 20 minutes, a half an hour, 40 minutes, 45 minutes of your hour hibodedut, that the whole thing is you just singing and dancing until you could finally talk to Hashem about what's missing in your life. So then you should do that. You have to do that. Because the point of hibodedut is not to shrink your mind and to make your emotions more volatile. It's to be able to elevate you, to make you more equipped to deal with your life, to make you more patient when you're at home, to make you more compassionate when you're with your spouse, to make you more compassionate with yourself, right? So not to think that you ever need to be the insane tzaddik. You don't need to be. Just to be a tzaddik, okay? And that means to be happy and to be healthy and to be joyful and to have relationships with others and to be connected to people, to have friendships, to have conversations with them, to be attuned to your journey and to your life, and to judge yourself favorably and to be compassionate with yourself, and to stop putting unnecessary expectations on who you are and who you need to be and who you should be, what should have been done by now, what has to happen by now, why hasn't it happened by now. All of these things are an aspect of the insane tzaddik. Just listen to the Chacham, listen to Rabbi Nachman, listen to Rav Natan, listen to their students, attach yourselves to them, and with this Bezrat Hashem, we should all be able to not just be tzaddikim, but to be healthy and to feel harmony in our life. I hope everybody has an amazing week, and Bezrat Hashem, we will continue next week. Thank you for everybody who sponsored this class. We just put up our classes for the first time on Spotify, our Likutei Moharan Shiur, so look out for that. Bezrat Hashem, we're going to be able to start recording all of our classes on audio moving forward. Hopefully this as well. And but definitely look out for the Spotify classes. And Baruch Hashem, thank God, we went over 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, which is a gigantic success and accomplishment and achievement for all of us. And I mean that in all sincerity. Every single one here in this class, for sure, and people who are going to be listening to this class, who believe in the project, who believe in these teachings, who have been helped by these teachings, who give them over to others. None of this could happen without you. And already since we went to 1,000 subscribers, it already like skyrocketed to I don't know, like dozens of more subscribers immediately after that happened. Because apparently, like, once you get to 1,000 subscribers, then it comes up when people search for Breslov, or people search for joy, or people search for mental health, right? And now all of a sudden, Sion Breslov like is popping up for them because it has 1,000 subscribers. So a big kol hakavod and yasher koach to everybody here. Thank you for all the money that you have invested in the project. Thank you for all of the time that you have invested in learning these teachings and bringing them into your life. Thank you for all the prayers that you have had to be able to spread the teachings of the tzaddik throughout the world. Mamish, this cannot happen without any of you, and I'm so thankful for all of you. And Bezrat Hashem, in the merit of everybody in this chabura, in this brotherhood and sisterhood that we have, that we should really merit to bring the teachings of Rabbi Nachman to the whole world, because this is what's going to bring the Geula, this is what's going to bring the redemption on a prati level, on an individual level, on a global level. And Bezrat Hashem, with this, we should see the coming of the Mashiach, Bimher Av Yameinu, and the rebuilding of the Beit HaMikdash soon in our days, B'rachamim, B'shalom, B'ahava, B'achdut, and B'sorot Tovot, that we should only hear from each other. And I love you guys. Thank you for everything.